Mr. Faflick, I have 2 o'clock, so I will go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Very good. Thank you, President Stein. We're ready to go here. We're now streaming on YouTube Live.
Okay, thank you. I would like to welcome and thank all of the board members for attending and for your preparation for today's meeting. I anticipate great discussion, deliberation, and final determination on today's agenda item. Thank you to those who communicated to the board members, either directly by email or phone or by exercising their voice through the digital public forum. Mr. Faflick had sent that out to each and every one of us before the meeting, so I hope everyone had a chance to look through those and to read those. Today, our special meeting is to receive a recommendation from the executive board, as they have indicated it appropriate to consider the possibility for a modification of the restricted attendance policy implemented in the November 24th special meeting of the Board of Directors and amended at the December 8th, 2020 Board of Directors meeting. This meeting will allow for discussion, deliberation, and final action regarding restricted attendance at winter interscholastic activities. At this time, I would ask Mr. Faflick to conduct a roll call and to provide operational overviews for the meeting this afternoon. Mr. Faflick.
Thank you, President Stein, and welcome to our Board of Directors. Thank you for making yourself available for this important meeting of the board and the decision that's before us. We'll begin with a roll call. Please turn your mic off so that we can do a mic check at the same time. I will proceed through our Board of Directors as they are presented in all of our publications, which is by organizational representation. So we'll start with our State Board of Ed representatives, Dina Horst from Salina.
Present.
Thank you. Jim McNeese of Wichita.
Present.
Thank you. Our governor appointees from Salina, Reverend Delvin Strecker.
Present.
Thank you. Dr. Linda Wiley of Silver Lake.
Present.
Thank you. Catherine Smith of Olathe.
Present.
And David Abel of Wichita.
Present.
Thank you. Our congressional district representatives for boards of education, small district and large district. Matt McCabe from Bueller.
Present.
Bob Dietz, Smith Center.
Present.
Thank you. Keith Griffin, Topeka Seaman. Keith? We'll come back to Keith and see if we get him to join us. Mike Castle from Parsons.
Present.
Stacy Oberner-Varhal from Blue Valley School District.
Present.
Thank you. Jerry Flanagan from Lewisburg. We did not anticipate Jerry was going to be able to join us today through communication prior to the meeting. Mark Richards from Goddard.
Present.
Mark. Craig Nelson from Renwick.
Present.
Thank you. Before I move on, Keith Griffin from Topeka Seaman. All right, we'll go to our organizational representatives representing the KASBC from Setanta, Ryan Burrows.
Present.
Thank you, Ryan. From the Kansas Coaches Association, Dodge City, Stan Boggs.
Present.
Stan, thank you for joining us, and our condolences to you and your family and your loss of this week.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
Representing the KIAAA from Douglas, Jason Menard.
Present.
Thank you, Jason. From Columbus, the Kansas Music Educators Association, Gay Phillips. And Gay also communicated she would not be able to attend today. Representing the KSCA from Tonganoxie, Steve Harrell.
Present.
Steve. Our middle school junior high representatives from Congressional District 1, Principal of Hill City, Alan Stein.
Present.
Well, Sabetha, Congressional District 2, Matt Garber.
Present.
From Congressional District 3, Frontier Trail Middle School Principal, Rod Smith out of Olathe.
Present.
Rod. Principal of May South Middle School, Congressional District 4, Court Haynes.
Present.
Court. And at large from Dodge City Comanche Middle School, Justin Briggs, Athletic Director.
Present.
Justin. And the principal of McPherson, also an at-large representative, Brandon Simmelink.
Present.
Thank you, Brandon. Representing our leagues from the Arc Valley Chisholm Trail League, Principal Rose Hill, Shannon Haydock.
Present.
Thank you. Assistant Principal Andover Central, Amanda Greer.
Present.
Athletic Director, Salina South, Ken Stonebreaker.
Present.
Thank you. Athletic Director of Bueller, Justin Sizer.
Present.
Thank you, Justin. The Principal from Holton of the Big Seven League, Rod Whitmer.
Present.
Representing the Centennial League, the Principal of Topeka High, Rebecca Morrissey.
Present.
Rebecca. Athletic Director of Washburn Rural, Penny Lane.
Present.
Thank you. Athletic Director of Emporia High School, Curtis Simons.
Present.
Thank you, Curtis. From the Central Kansas League, the Principal of Larned, Dustin Wilson.
Present.
Dustin. From the Central Plains League, the Principal of Cheney, Greg Rosenhagen.
Present.
Thank you, Greg. From the Central Prairie League, the Principal of Victoria, Dylan Dronberger.
Present.
Dylan. From the CNC, Principal of Galena, Toby Van Cleve.
Present.
From the Eastern Kansas League, the Principal of Blue Valley West, Brett Potts.
Present.
Brett. Principal of Blue Valley Northwest, Amy Presley.
Present.
Amy. From the Flint Hills League, the Principal of Council Grove, Kelly McDiffett.
Present.
Kelly. From the Frontier League, Principal Paola, Jeff Hines.
Present.
Yeah. From Ottawa, Principal Kelly Whitaker.
Present.
Thank you. From the Great Western Athletic Conference, Principal of Goodland, David Blocklinger.
Present.
Thank you, David. From the Greater Wichita Athletic League, the Principal of Wichita South, Kara Leedy.
Present.
Principal of Wichita Northwest, Eric Hober Holdeman.
Present.
And the Principal of Wichita High School East, Sarah Richardson.
Present.
From the Heart of America League, from Whitewater Remington, Principal Tim Baumgartner.
Present.
Tim. Principal of Kiowa South Barber from the Heart of the Plains League, Brent Schaefer.
Present.
Thank you, Brent. From the High Plains League, Principal of Sublette, Monty Marlin.
Present.
Monty. From the Kansas City Atchison League, the District Athletic Director for USD 500, Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools, Tammy Romstad.
Present.
Thank you, Tammy. Principal of Kansas City Wyandotte, Mary Stewart. We anticipated Mary unable to join us due to other commitments this afternoon. From the Lyon County League, the Principal of Burlingame, Tammy Baird.
Present.
Tammy. From the Mid-Continent League, the Principal of Smith Center, Greg Kelch.
Present.
Greg. From Alma Wabunsie of the Mid-East League, Principal Jan Hutley.
Present.
Jan. From the North Central Activities Association, Principal Beloit, Casey Seifert.
Present.
Casey. From the North Central Kansas League, Principal of Marysville, Darren Schroeder.
Present.
From the Northeast Kansas League, Principal of Oskaloosa, Brad Jones. And with the late phone call to the office, we anticipate Brad is busy at the beginning of the meeting. He may be able to join us midway through. From the Northern Plains League, the Superintendent of Milton Vale Southern Cloud, Roger Perkins.
Present.
You, Roger. Principal of St. Francis, representing the Northwest Kansas League, David Morrow.
Present.
David. And from the Pioneer League, the Principal of Burlington, Stacy Reed.
Present.
Stacy. From the Santa Fe Trail League, Superintendent of Moscow Schools, Stuart Moore.
Present.
Principal of Caldwell, representing the South Central Border League, Aaron Root.
Present.
From Labette County, the Principal, Shane Holzman, representing Southeast Kansas League.
Present.
Shane. Representing Spot Iroquois Activities Association, Principal of Greensburg, Kiowa County, Travis Powell.
Present.
Travis. From the Sunflower League, we have Principal of Olathe North, Jason Herman.
Present.
From Lawrence Free State, Principal Myron Graber.
Present.
And from Shawnee Mission Public Schools, Assistant Superintendent Michelle Hubbard.
Present.
Also from the Sunflower League, the Athletic Director of Mill Valley, Gerald Van Reen.
Present.
From the Three Rivers League, the Principal of Oswego, Rob Schneeberger.
Present.
From the Tri-Valley, the Principal of Eureka, Sean Spoots.
Present.
From the Twin Valley League, Principal of Frankfurt, Dean Dallinghouse.
Present.
From the United Kansas Conference, the Principal of Leavenworth High School, Christina Jones.
Present.
And the Athletic Director from Kansas City Turner, Ben Sutherland.
Present.
And from the Western Athletic Conference, the Principal of Hayes High School, Martin Straub.
Present.
Also from the WAC Athletic Director, Garden City, Drew Ton.
Present.
And from the Western Kansas Liberty League, the Principal of Grandfield Winkling Grinnell, Todd Flynn.
Present.
Principal of White City, representing the Wheat State League, Joel Kant.
Present.
And representing our independent schools unaffiliated with the league, the Principal of Olathe Heritage Christian, David Shank.
Present.
Thank you, David. So staff, that gives me a total of attendees. 73 in attendance. So we'll need a majority for action to be approved today, and we would need 3/4 of that 73 in order to add an item to the agenda. So we'll move forward with that in mind. 73 attendees. If any others join, we will make that announcement as we proceed. In terms of operational review for today, a couple of items for you. First, the support material that was provided for you. We sent an agenda last Thursday afternoon, immediately following notice from our executive board of this specially called meeting. We also sent the public forum communications. An invitation was provided to the community to provide comment. We had 16 responses that met that criteria. Those were distributed to you yesterday evening. Hopefully, as President Stein mentioned, you had a chance to review those and follow up as you deemed appropriate. That record, they become part of our permanent record in terms of submitting comments for this meeting. Today, we have one procedural item and one action item to be considered. We'll need a motion and a second for those action items to be discussed and then ultimately approved. Amendments need to be made and seconded. We will keep a working draft as we have done in recent board meetings on our shared screen as a document there so that we all know exactly what you're voting on and you know the detail of each of those votes. So bear with us if we have any amendments to the initial proposal. We will make those changes and we will have those up on the screen topic. And please remember, amendments are subject after they are made and seconded, subject to the majority of those in attendance for approval. They must be germane to that topic, and that is determined by President Stein. It's not germane. We won't talk about it, won't be introduced during that discussion, but we can certainly bring that to the agenda if we have 3/4 vote of those in attendance willing to add that to the agenda. Remember that we don't do our debate through the chat. Our debate is in public, the public forum of this meeting, and we will, as you've noted, we have broadcasting that via our YouTube live network. So if you are desiring to speak on an item, we do ask that you follow a protocol of just simply entering next into the chat. President Stein and I will both monitor that to make sure that we're able to call on you when it's appropriate to do so. Our voting protocol today is we will use the poll. We have a couple of items pre-populated, ready to go. Roll call vote is an option. If any member so requests, and then the majority affirms that would be what we would do. So we'll do that when needed. We'll also do that anytime we're within 3 of decision being passed. It's appropriate for us to go back and do that roll call vote. We do potentially have somebody joining us via phone. If that happens, they will text their vote to my assistant Mindy, who is here in the boardroom with our administrative team today, and she is our recording secretary, and she will make note of that vote, and we will publicize that vote and add it to the totals. Again, a Zoom record of each of the votes is being recorded, each respective voter, and they are subject to core requests, and we traditionally do receive those requests from the media and the general public following some of our agenda items. So President Stein, that's a quick review of our procedural and operational items today, as well as our roll call and vote, our roll call for today, and we are ready for you to move to item 3 on the agenda, sir.
Thank you, Bill. As Bill stated, we will move on to item number 3, and that is to waive the 10 days, which to also approve the agenda as presented. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Stein,
Yes, sir.
Roger Perkins, so move.
Okay, got a motion by Perkins,
Second by Haydock.
second by Haydock. Any further discussion on item number 3? Hearing none and seeing none. Go ahead and populate the vote, please. Please cast your vote at this time. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Please close.
So that results of that are 73 in favor and none opposed.
Okay. Motion carries. Next item is public forum. As I stated earlier, hopefully everyone had a chance to look through the digital comments that Mr. Faflick had emailed out to all of us. And as Mr. Faflick stated, I hope you had a chance to reply if you chose to. Moving on, item number 5. For the sake of clarity and a reminder, as a board, we amended the restricted attendance policy to the current status of 2 parent/guardians per participant at our December 8th special meeting. At the November 24th special meeting, we adopted the following language, which will be in effect unless the BOD takes action today. That language reads, for the period through the remainder of the winter activity regular season and postseason for the 2021 school year, attendance shall be limited to allow for appropriate distancing for the facility in accordance with local admissions and attendance policies.
Mr. President, Mike Castle.
Castle.
Mr. President, we received the following from the executive board following their January 14th meeting. Beginning January 29 until the end of winter activities regular season this school year, a maximum of 4 spectators per participant would be permitted to attend the appropriate social distancing required. Local school districts may choose to have stricter limitations based on seating and local health department guidelines. Accordingly, for the purpose of starting discussion, I make this motion. Beginning January 29 until the end of the winter activities regular season this school year, a maximum of 4 spectators per participant will be permitted to attend with the appropriate social distancing required. Local school districts may choose to have stricter limitations based on seating and local health department guidelines.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Mr. President, Ben Sutherland, I'll second.
Okay. Got a second by Ben. I would open the floor for discussion.
Alan, this is Justin Briggs.
Yes, Mr. Briggs.
I just want to clarify something real quick. If there's no discussion on this and we vote on this, then there's going to be no discussion as far as, because I know there needs to be some discussion on local control. So if we vote on this right now, then we're done, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I just want to put that out there.
Thank you. Tammy Baird?
So a no vote would say it goes back to local control. Is that correct? If we vote on this item right now, a no vote would mean it goes back to local control.
Mr. Faflick, would you address that, please?
That would be correct. Because the board approved on November 24th, local control, except for that defined period of December 10th through January 28th, as long as social distancing is followed and you follow your local policies, it becomes local control with a no vote today. And that was the language that we shared earlier, Alan, that you read and is now Brent is sharing on the screen. Those are the minutes from our November 24th meeting. That's what becomes applicable with a no vote. This has already been passed at the November 24th meeting.
Okay. Sean Spoons?
With the way the policy is written, what are the intentions of postseason attendance?
Bill?
I did not hear the entire question. I'm sorry. What's the intention of?
The postseason, yes.
Certainly, great question. The postseason policy would be that where it's appropriate, we would go up to no more than 50% of the allowable seating capacity. In many cases for postseason, we'll be well below 50%, all the way down to no spectators. As we look at our respective facilities, there may not be an opportunity for any parents to attend swimming and diving because we have to have a place for our athletes to go when they're not competing. When we look at bowling, very limited seating will be available, probably standing room only to allow for some folks to come in. We look at wrestling, again, we'll have to have on a site-by-site basis a determination of how much space needs to be allocated to the participating athletes, and then a number of tickets appropriated to their stakeholders, to the parents and the school communities they represent. Likewise, with basketball arenas, it will be dependent upon the seats available. For instance, in talking with Kansas State, we know that the limit there is 1,850, which is about 15% of the seating capacity of Bramlage Coliseum. And reality will probably be below that because we'll be selling tickets in pairs, and it may be an individual that buys 2 tickets and doesn't have a seat buddy to go with them. So we'll look at each one of those venues for postseason, and that includes the lead-up rounds. In no case will it be more than 50%, but it will always defer to local guidance in regards to health authorities and local board policies.
Catherine Smith?
I need some clarification. So basically, I mean, can in 2 weeks, are we perhaps going to be meeting over increasing it to 6 spectators, and 2 weeks later, well, if postseason's going 50%, I mean, I just need to know where this ends. I guess that's my question. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yes. Bill?
That would be the will of the board. The staff will not call a special meeting of the board of directors. The executive board could do that. The board of directors could convene that meeting at the request of the executive board, but there is no other meeting in the interim schedule between now and the beginning of postseason, which begins on February 6th with our state wrestling series underway. So we have a fairly short time frame for wrestling to begin, a little bit longer until we get to bowling would be the last one to start, because even basketball has started its lead-in games, its play-in games, its sub-state and qualifying games prior to that time.
Thank you.
Rod Whitmer?
Alan, can you put up the previous screen that you showed based upon the amendment from last time? So with that right there, if we revert to this, it allows for each school to determine based upon their seating capacity with appropriate social distancing, correct? So social distancing would be the primary guideline that we follow then with this, if this were to fall into place. Clarification, please.
Correct. Am I correct on that, Bill?
Yes, sir, that is correct. None of our conversation today, and I had that as a closing statement, face masking is still universal masking for all of our participants is still an expectation. We're not doing anything to address that. This is only about the restricted attendance component of our risk mitigation protocols. All other risk mitigation protocols of universal masking, hand washing, et cetera, remain in place.
Justin Briggs.
Well, I was just going to add in, Bill just made the comment that different activities are going to call for different capacities as far as people being able to attend. I just want to put that out there. That also applies for pretty much everything. I mean, obviously, a gym in Dodge City or Wichita or Shawnee Mission is going to be able to hold more people than a gym in, say, Ingalls or Buckland or any small town. So, 4 people per student athlete in Ingalls may be capacity in some of the small gyms. 4 people per student athlete in our gym won't even fill our student section. So again, I just want to put that out there that I think the local control is a better option than just putting 4 out there.
Thank you, Justin. Toby Van Cleve.
Hi, Toby Van Cleve from the CNC, and I'm just curious about the rationale and the thinking of the executive board about what's changed to increase the number of spectators.
The discussions that we had was to, there'd been some talk about opening it up a little bit, but didn't want it to go full-fledged open doors. And then the other discussion was to bring it back to this board for these types of discussions, just to get a starting point because it was coming to that time of the original motion that we passed in December was coming up next week. And we wanted to make sure that this board had a chance to, communicate and talk about this situation. Because this board is the one that put it in place.
Yeah, just to follow up, I just wonder if it's the vaccine that's making its way around, or does the executive board interpret things as getting better around the state?
I don't think that was an interpretation. There wasn't a lot of conversation about the vaccine and or the getting better. It was more of just a starting point. And giving this board the opportunity to make a decision, I guess, based off of their communications that they've had, or if they just wanted to, as we stated, if it's a no vote, if this does not pass, then it goes back to strictly local control. So then local school districts will be able to make that determination on the number of attendees that are allowed to attend their activities. Bill, am I missing anything on that?
Yeah, I think that any executive board member can chime in, but I think the consideration was, do we want to continue that policy of maintaining 2 parents and guardians per participant, or go to what was the intent of the board when it was passed to move it to all local control? This was seen as turning the dial up a little bit, but not totally turning it off wide open. So it certainly is still an upgrade. It helps schools in regards to knowing that it doesn't have to be a parent guardian. It allows a little bit broader audience where it's appropriate to do so. And I think that the board heard from a number of extended families, non-traditional families, grandparents or caregivers, older siblings, and other siblings, school-age siblings that would really like that opportunity to attend, but know that probably not everybody that wants to get into a game is still going to have that opportunity. So I think it was kind of that, where do we hit that? What is the dial going to be turned to? What is that fine point where we can reach that compromise and keep that balance of maintaining school health, maintaining that community health, so schools can stay open and instruction can continue, and still allow that experience to be there. Make no mistake, the goal is to provide experiences for kids in the activity to benefit, but then to have those be supported by their parents who are there to provide that support, as well as to respond in the case of an emergency, but also to provide that support. Now, is it time to expand that a little bit? That's for this board to determine at this point in time.
David Abel.
Just to follow up on a couple of questions that have been raised. As for the rationale for the limit of 4 from the executive, was there any input from the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee that influenced that recommendation? And the other question I would raise, and perhaps this is a discussion for another time, but has any discussion begun about spring sports and attendance limitations? With the understanding that spring sports, obviously, many of them are outdoors, and that's an entirely different environment we're dealing with.
The spring sport part, that will be for a different topic because we're just trying to gauge off the winter activities at this point in time. And Mr. Faflick, if you wanted to touch base on the first part of that question.
You bet. Our SMAC had varied feedback. It was absolutely supportive of the idea of providing opportunities for parents to be there to support their kids, but going to 4, I think, is the same caution that we heard from the very beginning. It will work if people maintain social distance, if people wear their masks, if people will follow the rules that are in place. They're there to protect the schools and the school communities, and there needs to be a strict adherence to those. And we try to implement things with fidelity, and we have struggled with that a little bit. But from the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee, if we properly adhere to the risk mitigation protocols in place, I think that they would be comfortable with that. Though there are some that think that maybe any participants may be too many still at this point, but they also like to see families sit together and not have expanded families that we sometimes see at our events. That maintaining that social distance at our competitions is much more possible when and much more likely when you have fewer folks there to begin with.
Greg Kelsch.
So our league, the MCL, we've talked about a couple things. First of all, with such a short amount of time with winter sports left, to keep it as simple as possible. We are in favor of expanding from 2 to a larger number, whether that be 4 or 5. But we'd also like to keep it simple. I think if you go off percentage of capacity, which everyone would do on a local level, the amount of confusion that would cause as far as percentages from gym to gym. So, we're in favor of increasing it and keeping it simple, to add a couple more columns to our pass list for spectators, 2 or 3 more columns, whatever that may be. But that's kind of what the MCL was thinking on our end.
Okay. Anything further? Mr. Briggs.
Yeah, just one more quick comment. Part of our job as Activities Association is to provide activities for our students. That's not only our athletes, but our regular ed students as well. A big part of being a high school student or middle school student is attending these games. Research has shown the safest place for our kids is at school, but yet we're not letting our kids come to the games when they're with those same kids all day long. So, limiting it to 4 people, I guess that means our students can give their tickets to 4 students and not their parents. I mean, I don't know where that goes. I really don't want to police that either, but I'd like to have our student body back in our games as well. And I'm pretty sure everybody on this panel would like that as well. If that's the safest place for our kids and they're with them all day anyway, and we go back to local control, and if it's 25% or 50%, I don't think that, Greg made the comment, it maybe cause some confusion. I mean, it's based off your size of your gym and the size of whatever your community is going to do. I mean, there's no confusion there in my eyes.
Okay, thank you. Michael Thone?
Yeah, 2 things, President Stein. The first thing is I'll reiterate what Mr. Briggs just said. There's already confusion based on gym sizes. Some places we're going aren't even allowing any fans. If it's a swim meet or a bowling event, they're not allowing any fans, or 1 fan, and the maximum is 2 fans. So there's already some confusion that we're dealing with our parents. The second thing is a question. Did the executive board discuss at all just following what KSHSAA is going to do for postseason with that 50% and discuss that as a proposal so that we don't have to come back and make any changes later on?
There was not a lot of discussion about that because of the differences in the activities. That was most of the discussion was just for the remainder of the regular season. Mr. Faflick?
Yeah, and I would agree. I think that the executive board felt comfortable. They control that postseason and make that determination. And because of the plans that are detailed and in place for those postseason events, which are finite in number, and everything's finite, but a more manageable number, I think that the board felt comfortable with that. Executive board felt comfortable with that. And this was that intermediate step between where we are now and when that postseason begins.
Kelly Whitaker. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
Well, the reason I ask is because I would eventually like to make a proposed amendment that would look at 50% capacity of a facility is why I ask, and I'll be asking for that amendment.
Okay. Kelly Whitaker.
Just a couple of things for this group to think about. I echo what Justin says when he talks about our students, other than just the ones that are on the field. I think that if we've all been working with our counties, everything we've been dealing with this entire school year, whether it's athletics, activities, or our learning environments have been different based on the counties that we live in. I think that confusion was there during football season, even in outdoor settings. It depended upon where you were going and what that county allowed. And I just think allowing it to go back to our local control and giving us that autonomy to work with our counties and have a student section or have how many ever people we can have in our space safely within all of the distancing and the masks is just something for this group to think about. And I just again, the confusion is going to be there no matter what. Even if this goes through and we do the 4, some schools are going to still say no fans. Some schools are still going to say 2. I think the confusion is going to be there no matter what we do. And our job as educators are going to be communicating with families and making sure that they know how many participants or fans can be at each of the events. So just think our other students is something that we need to think about and consider when deciding whether this goes back to local control or we stick with the 4 participants per athlete.
Thank you. Greg Rosenhagen.
My comment, just to follow up on what Greg Kell says several comments back, was about the not to exceed. I'm not ready, maybe, as Michael said, to put the not to exceed 50% capacity in there, although maybe I'm close because I've heard a little bit of that commented before. Keep the 4 spectators, but not to exceed 25%. We all may have in our leagues that, that 800 seat gym where 4 spectators per person might crowd up in a hurry, depending upon the number of participants, as opposed to the 2,500 seat gym with the same scenario. So it can look very different as far as a crowd at those locations. So that's what came to my mind to kind of piggyback off of what Greg said.
Thanks, Greg. Dean Dullinghouse.
Yeah, we had a league meeting last week in the Twin Valley League, and we came up with our own policy and how we're going to handle this whenever it comes on January 29th. And we just really like to be able to go back to local control and be able to figure out how it's going to work in each gym in our facilities. And I think the main thing is just to go back to local control and get everybody back to be able to let some more students into the game.
Okay. Kelly McDiffit.
Yeah, I would just, as a representative of the Flint Hills League, kind of just trying to mention in here, our league is split. We currently have schools, and again, some of that is, as was mentioned about gym size, but half of our league is wanting to maintain where we're at. Things seem to be working with the limit or the maximum of 2. The other half of our league is looking to open that up. The issue for us is, as we look at it, when you count boys and girls teams, we're having a league tournament in an 8-team league. And of our 16 teams, 3 of them are quarantined this week. It's difficult to look at the expansion of that, the expansion of the numbers when we see that happening in our league. So my particular support of this will probably, of this current motion, is probably more indicated not on the max of 4, but is to maintain a max rather than having no limit on that at all. And I guess I would add that I think that that the percentages at our schools limiting based upon a percentage, that's a little more ambiguous and difficult for schools of our size to deal with, I think.
Greg Rosenhagen, you're back up.
Yeah, another thing came to mind was when I read the proposal and all, the 4 spectators, what that speaks to me and saying that gives us a ceiling of what we would allow. I too think, our students deserve the opportunity to experience those events, whether that's in the student body or whatever. So, with the active players, cheer, dance, band, if you choose to have band, all of those things, to me, the 4 spectators per participant gives you your ceiling, and then locally you decide, how many of those are we going to allot for our students? Are we going to give a 3rd ticket to a family member? Are we going to leave it to 2 per participant per family, and the rest goes to students? Somebody may choose that the rest goes to a family where grandparents and or aunts and uncles, things like that. But to me, that's the local control that you do have, and the 4 spectators per participant just helps keep that ceiling. I've been to places, and I'm sure many of you have been, this fall, where don't know that I've been totally comfortable with the crowd because social distancing wasn't practiced at all, and made me feel a little uneasy going to some of those locations. So the local control I get, but also concerns me. Because I feel like that different communities really see that quite differently.
Matthew Garber.
Thanks, Mr. Stein. Just listening to some of the things and some of the observations I've had at the middle school level in our area of the state, there will be schools that aren't going to be able to use a maximum of 4. I think they're going to be limiting it based on their gym size and what they feel comfortable with. I also have been to gyms where the 2, we've had 13 people on one side of a gym where there could be other people very safely allowed to go in there. So I know we're kind of stuck on looking at numbers for 50%, but we're allowing schools to limit it if they need to. I like the option of allowing schools to raise that number if they're able to do that safely too.
David Shank.
Yeah, if appropriate, I would like to make a motion to call the question.
Okay, there's been a motion to call the question.
Shane Holtzman, second that.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second to call the question. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, seeing none. Mr. Faflik, if you would populate the question, please.
We're at work there. I think typically we just would vote at that point, speak in favor of that, but we can certainly go through this. We'll go through this poll and Brett will have it up here and we can continue discussion or move forward. So I think we're ready to go with a poll that he has just created.
Thank you.
And it should arrive in your screen momentarily.
Please cast your votes. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Please close.
We have 64 in favor and 8 opposed.
Okay, so motion carries. So now we will vote on the motion as written. Please populate. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Please close.
We had a total of 46 in favor and 26 opposed, so 46 to 26.
Okay, so motion carries. Anything further from you, Mr. Faflik?
I do not have anything further other than a reminder to our member schools that with this action, local control is still absolutely appropriate. And if you're not ready for 4 in your facility, then that is your call. We believe that this is a good action our executive board put forth, and now it comes down to our schools to implement with fidelity, without any compromise on the expectation of universal masking for all of those that are coming into your facility, except for those that are engaged in active play. So your basketball players, your wrestlers, your swimmers, your bowlers, when they are participating, actually your bowlers get to wear their mask as they bowl, but everybody else would be able to take off when they're in competition. When they return to the bench, they remask. Likewise, social distancing is necessary with the more folks in our gym, as well as the expectation we continue to provide our appropriate hygiene, plenty of hand washing stations, and most importantly, we have integrity in reporting and communicating. If someone doesn't feel good and when they do their self-assessment before school, when they do their self-assessment before a game, they take their temperature. If they have a new cough, if they've been exposed to someone that has been sick, that they share that. And we take that action and we take those communications very seriously and respond appropriately in line with our KDHE guidance. So with that, President Stein, those would be my closing comments today.
Thank you, Bill. And one quick thing on there, Bill. I got a message from Kelly. She said hers closed before, but she was a no vote and wanted that on record.
Okay, so we will amend that to 46 to to 27 and make sure that Kelly
Whitaker.
Whitaker,
Yes.
Kelly Whitaker is a no, and we'll add that to the log.
Okay. Next regular scheduled meeting is scheduled for April 30th, 2021, and that is scheduled at 4 p.m. Anything further? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr.
Garner
President,
from Whitewater, Remington, move to adjourn.
Motion
second,
by Tim. Second by
Perkins.
Roger. Any further discussion? All in favor? Cast your vote. All opposed, cast your vote. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's meeting, and thank you for your time and discussion. And it was unanimous to adjourn the meeting. Again, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Alan.